still in the history and records. We got records. He has records of everything. So it's not like someone said it. It's records show what this woman, Fannie James, went through to record her land.
Got official records in the city clerk's office of the governmental meetings, all of that stuff that was there. But what was the untold story is what was here before.
Gee, we have been forgotten. Look what we started. It was us here first.
I would like to tell you about Fannie and Sammy James, take a little bit here and tell you a little bit about these brave pioneers. First of all, they were indigenous people, and they were African American who had had the slave experience in this land.
'96, '97. We had a mayor that I worked with very faithfully, Tom Remesio.
Okay.
He was the mayor, and he got involved with the research of the history. So let's get some history. And we found out how Lake Worth started and who started the post office and who started this. And Tom researched all this.
Tell us the story of how it kind of came together in your mind.
It came about during Tom's time. He was the mayor, I was the commissioner, and we worked together, and he said, let's find some research on. We heard so much about the first post office and who started in Lake Worth, who had land. And he researched the Fannie James. And he found out the house where they lived, they owned so much land here, and he wanted to say, let's ask for monies and stuff to start a museum. Tom found all that information out. So we couldn't buy the house. The city could not buy the house where it was. So he went, she was the first postmaster. After seeing Ted stepped in, and Ted and I got together, and we started doing the research. Ted really went about doing it.
How did it make you feel as a beautiful black woman
that
she founded
the owner of the
the
jewel? That's right. She owned land from 12th Avenue South here
acres.
all the way up to College Park. That was a whole Lake Worth.
How did that make you feel to discover that?
Oh,
like, what did that do for your own self?
It was just amazing.
It was just the beginning.
That was just the beginning.
These were very prosperous, industrious people.
Thinking
okay,
people, critical
right.
thinkers.
Visionaries.
So
Visionaries.
Samuel was a carpenter. He built a little house, imagine 14 by 23 foot house. Dug a well probably by hand because they didn't have any well drilling equipment. And he put in citrus trees, coconut trees, vegetables like winter tomatoes, and also mostly pineapples, because pineapples grew very well in the sandy soil that was here, and it could ship well up north where they could sell it as a tropical exotic fruit.
Shipping.
Okay. Even in this day before the train was there, James's arrived in September of 1885. He came down here, and he got his claim up north, where the Lake Worth golf course is now, and one of his other friends did the same thing, but the third guy they couldn't find any land for. So this man by the name of Orville Fulton came down and took out his claim right on the James's property. And what he did was, you were supposed to stake out your claim, build a house, put your crops in, and then go put in your application. He slept on the land one night with an axe and a blanket, cut down one tree, and then hightailed it up to Gainesville, Florida, and put in his application for that land, challenging Samuel James's application. Okay. And what they found there, Samuel's application was already on file, but there was a clerical error in the file where a 5 and a 3 were transposed. And the land office didn't quite know what to do with that application. It was just laying there. We said, well, I got my application in first, I'm taking this land. So naturally, the issue had to go to court. And so we have all the court records from the county court hearing of these two men disputing over this land. Now the brilliant thing about this, the really heartwarming thing about this, is that Samuel and Fannie James were well loved by their neighbors. The Bradleys were there. There were some other people living over on what's now Manalapan, on Hypoluxo Island, that they knew, and the Potters, he was the county surveyor who had drawn Fanny's map for the application. And all of those white people stood up for the Jameses at the hearing.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here today live with Ted Brownstein. I'm so excited to be talking to him today about this incredible book called Pioneers of Jewell. This is history, ladies and gentlemen, in the making, and we're here and we're going to have an amazing conversation about the story of Lake Worth and how it was really founded.
In their 40s, and Samuel was in his 50s. So obviously they had a lot of history that went before them. They were alive before the Civil War.
Definitely.
They had gone through all that transition and all the history of Florida through Reconstruction and all that period of time. Before they even got to Florida, we knew that they had to have some history there, but we didn't know what it was. The other real mystery that struck my attention was if you were able to find Fanny and Samuel James as homesteaders. They had come to Lake Worth and they had taken out a homestead under the Federal Homestead Act, which entitled them to 160 acres. Actually, their homestead was 187 acres because it was along the shoreline. They took out waterfront acreage that ran from the Lake Worth Bridge 1 mile south along the water to where 12th Avenue South is now. And they were the first ones in the area, so they got that prime real estate. But
at that time, was it prime real estate or was it mostly swamp?
Well, it had the potential.
See,
and so they saw the
visionaries.
potential. At that time, there were no canals.
Wow.
There were no roads. The mosquitoes and the swampland and the heat and the humidity were tremendous. Very few people wanted to live down here. So when Fanny and Samuel first came here, their nearest neighbors there was a bachelor that lived in a little palmetto shanty 6 miles north where West Palm Beach was. There was no West Palm Beach at the time.
Wow.
And there was one family living south of them in what's now Lantana, the Bradley family, that had 4 kids and were loners out there and was their nearest neighbor to the south. And then there was the Pierce family living over on Hypoluxo Island, and those were their nearest neighbors. They were miles away from anybody, and they were out here in the Everglades in the swampland by themselves. They were truly pioneers.
Now, if Fanny and James could talk to you, like literally talk to you, what 3 important things would you think that they would want people to know about their lives and their journey and their challenges and their adventure?
Well, that's a really good question. I think they were very hospitable people. They loved people. All the reports that they have is they got along with all of their neighbors and were really loved by everybody. As different people moved in, they made friendships very quickly, people that trusted them. I think they would want to be remembered. Fanny loved
the struggle and the history that Tom and records. We got records. He has records of everything.
Yeah,
so it's not like someone said it. It's records show what this woman, Fanny James, went through. And he found the house where she lived, and her husband was buried, supposedly in the front yard.
Okay.
2nd, 2014 marks the 125th anniversary of the establishment of the Jewell Post Office. And whereas the city of Lake Worth desires to celebrate its history and the enterprising courage of its founders. Now therefore I, Pam Triolo, Mayor of the city of Lake Worth, Florida, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim August 22nd, 2014 as Jewell Founders Day.